Today on the What If Brigade, I want to talk about my e-cargo bike and do a little review of it. Let's see if I can actually list all this off. This is the Decathlon Btwin Elops R500E Longtail cargo e-bike. Wow, that's a mouthful. Lots of words for this bike. I want to do a little bit of a review today, and I want to start out by talking about my reasoning behind purchasing this bike. If you watch my review of my non-electric cargo bike, my manual cargo bike that I used for an entire year, you'll know that my big complaints about that one were that the wheels were too small, the brakes were not very good, and the cargo capacity without a trailer wasn't very good. Where this bike solves a lot of that. It has some nice Big Ben Plus fat tires. It has great disc brakes, and it has amazing cargo capacity. If you remember, I'll put a link to the review of my manual bike, my previous manual bike review. But essentially, almost everything that fit in my manual bike will fit in these bags alone, and then plus what fits in the nice cargo box, what fits in the front, what fits in the backpack. That's all extra. So an incredible increase in cargo capacity. I'm really happy with it. I have put 1,376 kilometers on this e-bike so far, and I've been super pleased. My thought process on this, originally I was looking really hard at the Radwagon, the Rad Power Radwagon. This was $2,700. I know prices change, so in the future these prices may all be different. And the Radwagon was considerably less. However, once you added almost everything that you see on this bike comes standard. And so once you start adding things like lights, baskets, places for people to ride in the rear, bars for people to hold on to in the rear, an anti-theft locking system, all of that stuff, once you start adding that, the Radwagon rapidly increased in price to essentially the same amount, especially when you consider this one comes assembled. And I have a store locally that services it. Now, I'm in France, so you may not have access to a Decathlon with a Decathlon bike shop attached. This may be irrelevant where you live, but for me, it was very relevant. And if you remember my earlier review, I was actually extremely happy to have local service with my manual bike, because if you are taking a bike to work 5 days a week and then doing grocery shopping with it on Sunday or Saturday, you end up doing a lot more repairs and maintenance than a typical person would. So that became important. Let's take a look at let's take a walk around the bike, take a look at the features, and then I want to talk about, I've touched on a little bit of the advantages, but I also want to talk about the disadvantages of this particular bike, because this is very much an entry-level e-cargo bike. So let's take a look at, first I want to talk about what is not included when I bought this. So I paid an extra $100 for these bags, and they actually they're made specifically for this bike. So they're basically for this bike. They come with it, and then I have some accessories that were not made specifically for this bike. I had this with my manual bike for many years. Essentially, what I use this for is I use it for holding my cell phone, but it also has room for Kleenexes, glasses. This is a rain guard, so it's got, I can put my battery charging pack in here and charge my cell phone while I'm riding. But this is essentially my cell phone compartment. hand key. It almost looks perfectly made for this particular bike. It works great. Some other things that I added was I have extra lights, and I have these for two reasons. One, if the battery dies, my bike will still have lights, and then also if I want to see something in, say, one of these sacks or something that's not on the bike, I can just attach this and use it as a flashlight. And then in terms of the one on the back, so this is my reserve light, and I like this one. I like this one because it has little Night Rider lights, and I think that's really fun. So really like these lights, and then of course this plastic box and these bungee cords did not come standard. Here, I'll take these off real quick. I know, should have done this beforehand, but I wanted to show how I have it set up. So this box is extremely useful for grocery shopping, but I want to take it off so you can see a little bit more of the bike. And you can see that it's got an 80 kilogram max cargo weight, and it also holds 170 kilograms total, rider and cargo. So essentially with me on it, it can still hold 80 kilograms. And then these bags are specifically designed so that they can, there's little straps on here, you can fold them up so someone could ride on the back here. Or you can take the bags off. If you can see, the bags are actually attached by the screws. So you take the wood off and attach the bags on there. But essentially, other than these, so the bag was 100 extra, made specifically for the bike, and the lights, and this, the bike comes with everything. So the bike came with this rear seat. You can buy an extra padded seat, but my daughter has ridden on it, and she said that wasn't really necessary. It comes with a place for your feet to go down when you're riding on the back. Maybe one or two children could ride on the back, 80 kilograms max. And then it comes with the front basket. It comes with an anti-theft device. I'll have a separate video on that, but essentially there's a key, and you push down, take out the key to lock it, and you put the key back in and raise the lever to unlock it. So yeah, comes standard with anti-theft. If you can come over to this side, and it's got an 8-speed manual transmission. And here I want to start talking about strengths and weaknesses. I essentially, in e-bike mode, I almost always have this set at 8, because especially in regular or max power mode, it's really easy to pedal in 8. So that's fine. And then when I'm not using the battery, I almost always have it set much lower. If you were trying to go up a hill with this, you probably wouldn't want to do that at the 8 setting if you didn't have battery power. And so this shifter is actually, it's really cool if you're in manual mode, but if you are in e-bike mode, you're pretty much always setting it at 8. And it's got, let's see, if we look at the power here, so we can see. I think I can show. Oh, yeah, here we go. So 1376 kilometers. The lights come on automatically. You can turn them off, but most of the time I just leave them on. And it's got 3 modes. It has the eco mode, number 1. It has the normal mode, number 2. And it has the power mode, number 3. And in Europe, this is restricted to 25 kilometers an hour. Usually runs around 26, 27 kilometers an hour. And I essentially usually leave it on power mode all the time. You can hit 38, 43 kilometers per hour going downhill, but for the most part, if you're talking about accelerating around the town, I usually leave it on number 3, and it has a quick launch right here. You push this down to quick launch the bike, and you know, in terms of talking about the battery, this kind of battery prefers to be between 40% and 80% charge. And so, you know, how much battery life is there? Well, it depends. It's very context-based. The battery life depends a lot on how much weight is on the bike, so how much you weigh, how much cargo is on it. It depends on wind resistance. It depends on how cold it is. It depends on how hot it is. It depends on if you're running it on max setting number 3 or normal number 2 or eco number 1. All of those things have a tremendous impact. But long story short, I am heavy. I load the bike quite heavily to drive to go to do my work commute. My work commute is, depending on which office I'm going to, I'm either going a little over 5 kilometers away or I'm going 11 kilometers away. And when I'm going 5 kilometers away, it's going to use about 30% or more, a little more of the battery life. So it's going to get down to 69% battery life, which means that if I'm aiming to have between that 40 and 80% battery life, which is a good charge, I can go 2 days on a charge, so going to work and back both times, and then I'm going to want to charge it. It could go longer, but again, it's not very good for the battery to get that low, and the bike is definitely faster when it's at 100%. It's faster when it is room temperature. It's faster when you have less cargo on it. All those kinds of things. So, and then if I'm going the 11-kilometer commute, so 22 kilometers total, essentially it gets close to half of the battery used when it's on max with a lot of cargo, and then essentially I would want to charge it daily in that situation. It could do 2 trips, yes, but you run the risk of having no power and having to pedal. And when I first tested this, very importantly, when I first test rode it at the store using their display model, I tried it out without any battery power at all to see, can I make this bike work? Because it's pretty heavy. So I said, can I pedal this without without a battery? And I want to contextualize this by saying that I had been taking my manual cargo bike to work 5 days a week and getting groceries on the weekend for an entire year before I tried pedaling this. And so in that particular instance, it was fine. But I would say that you're going to want to use the smaller gears when you're pedaling this manually, and then it's not going to go very fast. It's going to be very slow. Can it move manually? Yes. Is that ideal? No. Like I said, I normally keep it on max power. So that's kind of overview of the features. When I was shopping for e-bikes, you might say, well, why were you thinking about the Radwagon and this one? As I am big and tall, I looked and I said, okay, if you are big and tall, have enormous feet, that was one of the problems that I had with my manual bike, that my feet, hit the bag behind me. Here, if you look at the space between the pedals and the rear bag here, my manual bike, these were too close, and the rear of my heel kept striking the bag. And what I learned on the internet from experts is that for us big and tall people with large feet, is that long tails work really well because you are evenly distributed between the two wheels. Yes, urban arrows look amazing, but when you have the wheelbarrow style front, the natural tendency of the manufacturer is to have the space between the pedals and the rear wheel be smaller because you already have a lot of space in the front. And this was actually pretty convenient for me because I don't actually have any parking space or e-bike parking space right now. Our apartment, the bikes all go under the stairs next to the garbage cans. And so I don't have a really good space. And so, something like that has more of the wheelbarrow size front would be really annoying to lift up. There's like just 3 little steps, but you got to lift it up and you got to bring it in under the stairs, and it would fit annoyingly. Where this, if you look at the width of it overall, you can put a bike next to it. So yeah, my neighbor's bike, my other bike and my son's bike sit right next to this, no problem, because it's not that wide. So that worked really well. Now let's see. I should probably talk about downsides. This is going to be a little bit of a long-winded rant, but I think it's important, especially if you're getting this particular bike. The first one that I want to talk about, I was warned about this, but the person who warned me was such a jerk that I didn't really listen, and I thought I'd be fine. And that was that the varnish or sealant on this wood is not very good from the factory, and has a tendency to develop mold. Now, I have a motorcycle cover, so I cover the bike when it's at work. One of my workplaces, the bike's outside. The other 2 workplaces, the bike is sheltered, so that's fine. But my primary workplace, I put the motorcycle cover on, and I thought I was so smart. I thought if it's got a motorcycle cover on and I'm storing it inside at night, no problem, right? Wrong. I think that, so I mentioned I store the bike under the stairs next to the garbage. It's a pretty humid environment, and essentially what happened is mold developed on the wooden parts, and there was a lot of weathering and mold on the wooden parts. Here, if you look, you can see that there's a lot of weathering here. Basically, this is closer to the ground. It was getting a lot of water on it, and so what I did was I took all the wood parts off. I sanded them down. I double coated them in varnish, and they'll probably be better now. But in hindsight, and if in 3 years, if I replace the battery and refurb this bike a little bit and re-up it for another 3 years, I will actually ask for new wood, and I'll put marine varnish on it because and to be fair, I was warned. So now I'm warning you. If you get this bike, take all these wooden pieces off, put marine varnish on it. Otherwise, if you're in a humid environment, like Brittany or Seattle or the United Kingdom, it will get mold on it. So, important to note. Let's see. other things that, let's see if there's anything else. The adjustable height, the handlebars work great. As I mentioned at the beginning, my use case for this bike and the reason why I wanted to get a newer bike. Oh, I thought of the one other problem. Hold on, before I sum up. The other thing, with the motorcycle cover on, it's very windy here. Here, check this out. The bike fell over at least twice at my workplace and got a little scratched up. I'm going to have to get some plastic coating for that. You know, I was covering the bike from the rain, but that cover caught the wind and the bike went over. If you look, it's probably hard to see this. It's probably hard to see this right here. Here, I'll move it to the street briefly. Might be able to see this a little better. It's not very apparent. On a flat surface, when the bike is parked, the front wheel doesn't actually touch. So I mean, it's touching right now. You can see, but we're on an incline. Let's see if I can. I wonder if I can do it, reverse it. But there we go. So right now, the wheel is not touching the ground, and so. And this is actually really useful. This is actually really useful from a maintenance perspective. So when I want to adjust, you kind of have to adjust the back wheel a little bit to lock it. But I can pivot the bike up onto the front wheel, or I can have it back onto the back wheel, and not have the weight resting on either side. But from a perspective of the bike blowing over, this is bad because it has fewer contact points and it's easier for the bike to blow over. It's not as heavy as a motorcycle, so if you put a motorcycle cover on it, it can catch the wind and it can blow over. Okay, so my big downsides to this bike is it definitely needs a marine varnish on the wood. I'm absolutely sure, this being the 2020s, is what happened is there was, you know, a sourcing problem with the eco-friendly varnish, and you know, they just didn't have as good a one as they should have, or whatever. But this is a fixable problem. If you took it when it was brand new and you marine varnish these things, that you would probably never have any problems with that. And then the other thing that I would say is you've got to be careful about where you park it if you're putting a motorcycle cover on it, because in high winds it can blow over. So you want to brace it against a wall. You want to make sure that it's not in a place where it can fall over. But in conclusion, my reasons for switching to this bike is, you know, I wanted better tires, I wanted better brakes, and I wanted better cargo capacity. And this bike really does all of those things, and it does it for not very much money. You know, are there better $5,000 bikes? Almost certainly yes. Does this bike take me to work 5 days a week and allow me to get groceries on Saturday? Also yes. This is kind of my review of this Decathlon e-cargo bike. I believe this is the first e-cargo bike offering from Decathlon, and I actually I'm really excited about it. I feel like it is a good entry-level e-cargo bike value. So if you live in an area where you have Decathlon stores and can get this bike, there are higher quality e-bikes, obviously. However, if you're going to be if you're going to be riding it in the winter to work, you're going to be riding it in the rain to the grocery store, this e-bike actually has a lot of advantages in terms of bang for your buck. It's a great value, and I really enjoy it. So let me know if you have any questions about this particular e-bike down in the comments below.